UnDaoDu, UnDaoDu, UnDaoDu. UnDaoDu, UnDaoDu, UnDaoDu. UnDaoDu, 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 UnDaoDu. UnDaoDu, 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 UnDaoDu. UnDaoDu, to you and yours. Mike Trow here, from the heartland of Zen Buddhism in Japan, asking a simple question. How does one man, one person, change the world? Is it possible? Since 2010, when I accidentally stumbled upon the underlying endemic problem facing our planet, and that is we have an infinite agent we call our business model, capitalism, interacting with a finite agent, our planet. And if you want to boil down game theory, it comes down to this. If you have an infinite agent interacting with a finite agent, that infinite agent will win 100% of the time. So back then, I couldn't really go and say, hey, Mr. Wall Street, right? All these people are occupying Wall Street. And I, back then, did a bunch of tweets and tried to get their attention. I was like, guys, it is not Wall Street. It is the engine that drives Wall Street, which is built on this idea of proof of growth, which leads to ROI, which leads to investments, which leads these, to the whole wealth and power cycle that Noam Chomsky talked about in 2011 in his epic documentary that came out around April. I reached out to Norm and said, Norm, I have a solution to your problem. It changes everything. It replaces a startup. It replaces the corporation. It's built on this thing called Bitcoin, right? We didn't have a word back then for the blockchain. And ultimately, it will basically nip the head off of this problem. He says, I can't help you. And so, this is my chicken. Let me let the chicken out. Sorry, Chuck. Come on, Chuck. Come on out. He hears me talking. It drives him crazy. Come on. Stop making so much noise. Go on. Go find yourself some grubs. All right. Don't need to be noisy. So, the real question is can one person change the world? I don't know. I really don't know. You could say, well, Steve Jobs changed the world. Well, no, he was given the opportunity to change the world because he was funded, right? And you could say, well, Facebook changed the world. Again, he was funded by the very same, closed capital networks. Mahatma Gandhi changed India. He was funded by people, by creating a social movement. You could say Mandela did the same thing. So there's two ways to change. One is with money and wealth and power. The other with a civic movement. Andrew Yang, in many respects, is ushering in that movement, the whole idea of humanity first. social capitalism is humanity first. Just as the internet launched social media, right? The blockchain inevitably, I can't say it, will usher in social capitalism. And social capitalism is built on a fund that is outside, unstoppable code that is outside of the IMF, outside of Wall Street, outside of, of Silicon Valley, outside of the wealth and power cycle, that will ultimately launch a new kind of startup that anyone can join. That's a found up back in 2010. Decentralized, open, autonomous startups that will ultimately fair share payments with everyone. But when they launch as DANOs, which are kind of like an IPO, a decentralized autonomous nonprofit organization, when they're DANOs, the fund is kept with the with this unstoppable code. And these DANOs ultimately fund the UBI, free education, all these different things. Everything is getting disrupted. And education is going to be disrupted. I will be able to teach anyone an 8th grade equivalent in math, science, and language arts. This is a project that I started or wanted to start and developed. FoundUps is kind of a hammer to usher it in, called the E-Singularity Dano. So we have the technology that we have AI, could read the expression, can deliver learning units to the end user that ultimately has validation done through rewards, could be vocal rewards for a child and so on. Teachers are being disrupted, schools are being disrupted, attorneys are being disrupted, accountants are being disrupted. Everything is going to be disrupted by AI. There is good AI and there's bad AI. Right now, the AI being developed, I would call as bad AI because it's being used to prop up the 1%. It's being used for them to control us. The good AI, obey, open, beneficial AI that's going to drive all this, is the antithesis to this AI. And the only way we're going to usher this in is for people to start having the discussion. And to that end, I am spending a significant amount of money, right, at DevCon 5, which is Ethereum's big blockchain, 5, notice how, 5th age of man, celebrating the birth of capitalism, birth of social capitalism, because social capitalism built on unstoppable code, built on Bitcoin, is unstoppable. That's the celebration. And every year for us to have an event called Blockfest, Japan, that will spread. And Japan is important because Japan is the most empathic civilization on the planet. It has its problems, but as a whole, they are the most empathic civilization. And we need to export the ideals and the values in many respects of Japan globally. We need other communities embracing this empathic, methodology. So having an event that celebrates, I call it Burning Woman, that celebrates the birth of social capitalism annually is a natural outcome. An event where there's music, there's entertainment, but yet the goal is to launch 100 to 1,000 found-ups that ultimately will launch anywhere in the world that will level up into the next Danos, about 2%, 3%. That then will fund more. The solution is a hyper transformative cycle because it's a closed cycle. So I invite you to be part of FoundUps. I invite you to share what I'm doing. I invite you to stop chasing your tail and start thinking, how do we save the planet before it's too late? UnDaoDu. I have an answer. How about you?